Hello, welcome to Chat with Dr. Kat. I'm Dr. Kat. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about hierarchy in the workplace. Now, this is a funny one because it can actually apply to anything. Sometimes it applies to your household. It can apply to your PTA groups. It can apply even sometimes to friend groups. It really is an interesting thing, and it's very simple, and I'm excited to bring this to you today. So, any suggestions or comments or anything else, please go to chatwithdrkat.com. Please keep continuing to bring in those topics. I really appreciate it. And again, moving forward, we're going to start beginning with people guesting on the podcast. So, if you're interested, please let me know. Okay, remember, no fluff, no judgment, just real talk that leads to real change. Now, here it is. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. The hierarchy that usually happens in your workplace that can cause workplace fatigue, workplace stress, anxiety, maybe sometimes feeling devalued. Sometimes people are aware, sometimes people are not aware. The subtleties that happen in a workplace. Now, it can even occur. A lot of people are now remote. It can also work in that environment as well. You just don't see it as much. After the big pandemic, a lot went remote, okay? Schools went remote, jobs went remote. And unfortunately, what that did was it took away from the social component of working, which is vital. We need to have that interaction, that camaraderie. If not, we're the only expert in the room every single day, right? Part of even my job, I am the expert in the room. I am the one that knows it in the room. So what's important for me is I get together with colleagues and we talk about different things that go on in my practice, in their practice, and we give each other feedback. Now, obviously, no names or any identifiable information is not provided, but what that does is it allows us to have the expertise shared, get new ideas, maybe confirm what we clinically know. So, it's missing in our workplace right now, a lot of the remote work life that's going on. I always recommend people in my practice to get out of their home. If they're working every day in their home, maybe you can hire a workplace. One of those places that you can go to, you rent an office, maybe you do it, by the day, by the week, maybe even a few hours. It's a workplace area. There's other people there that you can speak to, but it gets you out. You don't have to always go out and buy a cup of coffee, but maybe you go out, you take a 20-minute walk in between. I always recommend going somewhere. That way, you have that ability to interact with people. Again, we're social creatures. So let's go back to that hierarchy. It's very simple, and here it goes. We usually have our diamonds at the top. Okay? These are people who know what they're doing. They're getting their work done. They don't usually need a lot of interaction. Most of the time, not given a tremendous amount of feedback because they're expected to do extremely well, and they do. Okay? The next group are your diamonds in the rough. These are people who are learning how to become those diamonds. Oftentimes receiving, information, good feedback, bad feedback. I think all feedback is good, but maybe positive and negative is a better word to use, in order to continue on their path to being these people who are self-sufficient. Now, sometimes people get stuck in that pattern of diamonds in the rough, whether they're lacking drive, and maybe because they're not happy at that workplace. Or maybe it's because we have the third layer. Now, again, we have diamond in the rough. And the third layer, I usually call the bottom feeders. the emotional vampires. We will be doing another podcast just on emotional vampires, which also often clinically refers to people who possibly, not all, can be your personality disorders, which could be, your narcissist, your histrionic, borderline personality disorder. Now, those are some big disorders out there, and oftentimes people don't need to be necessarily diagnosed with it. But in my practice, at least it provides us with a start. And now with everyone having all of the access to become their own Google doctors, they look up what is out there. TikTok, Instagram Reels, all these different things will show you about narcissists. Oh, if your boss does these 5 things, then they're a narcissist. Yes and no, not always. Sometimes they can have different characteristics, but it's important to learn how to navigate. Now, here's the thing about workplace culture, okay? When you look at the diamonds in the rough, and the bottom feeders, oftentimes the person who gets the most attention are the bottom feeders, the ones that create drama, chaos, usually HR or bosses or, people that you have to answer to are not quick to fire because they're worried about lawsuit. Everybody's worried about a lawsuit. Here's the bottom line. It would be great if we looked at who performs and who does not perform. Let's look to see why they're not performing. Is there something going on in their emotional life that you can maybe help them with? Give them a referral. Maybe there's something going on with somebody else at the company that places them in this tornado of chaos. Let's see, because that person, if you take the moment, possibly could get up to that diamond. So take a second to see what's going on. Now, if you've taken a minute and another 5 minutes, and you figured out that this person really is not best suited, it's actually more detrimental to your company, to your PTO, to your PTA, to your friend group in keeping that person there, because it's usually the person that causes the most chaos that has the most power. I'm going to say that again because I really want you to hear what I'm saying. The person that causes the most chaos often is the person that has all the power. Why is that? Well, because most people want to come in, have a lovely event, want to have a lovely meeting. They don't want the chaos. The person who creates the chaos thrives on chaos, lives in chaos, provides chaos, and creates it constantly. That's what they do. So, what do the other people do? Avoid, move away from it, maybe talk about it to somebody else. They don't want to create change because they don't want to create more chaos. Oftentimes, the person who's the emotional vampire, the bottom feeder in a business structure or family structure or wherever, they don't create the chaos just for themselves either. Now, I use the word tornado. That was not by mistake. Think about a tornado. What does a tornado do, right? Maybe it starts and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And what does it do? It brings things in, okay? It's bringing in stuff, cars, debris, trees, houses. I mean, it brings in everything, creates mass destruction. Now, why do I give that example? Because somebody who creates chaos in the workplace and in the friendship group and PTA, PTO, wherever it is, they don't act alone. They have to make their chaos even bigger. So the moment they feel like, if somebody says to them, wow, I don't feel that way about that person. Oh no, I actually think that they did a great job. That person now, something clicks within them. Something goes wrong where they say, you know what? These 5 people think that that person's great. Let me go find another 5 people who don't think that way. Maybe these other 5 people are also struggling in the job. Maybe they're also negative people. and now they've enrolled. Negative people are enrollers. Enrollers. I want to give this example. There was this woman, her name was Kirsten, that I was at my daughter's elementary school, both daughters' elementary school. Lovely, unbelievably lovely woman. She always will have a place in my heart and my mind. I remember we were putting together tables for parents to come in. It was a, welcome back coffee. I'm an over the top person. It's just who I am. And sometimes I need to step back and look and see, but oftentimes workplace culture, school structures, their culture is, you know what? We have somebody who goes above and beyond. Let's maybe knock them down so they don't outshine us. That's like saying to kids, remember when I told you the early bird catches the worm? Forget about it. Remember when I said you should achieve for great grades? Get C's and D's. It's okay. It's passing. What? We don't do that. We want people to strive to be productive. We want people to feel success. When you feel success and productivity, we feel great about ourselves. We want to continue. It's great for our community. It's great for our environment. But oftentimes, we want to bring down the person that makes us feel less than. So here's where Kirsten comes in. I was setting up, and she comes over and she says, wow, Kat, you did an amazing job. And I looked at her and I said, is it too much? I can take it down. It's just I had this vision and I want to bring it. She says, no, what you did was amazing here. You've got great vision and you have the passion and the love. You want this to be the best for the kids and the parents. This is nothing to feel bad about. I was like, oh my gosh, you want to know what she did next? She took me by hand. Now, this was very uncomfortable, but it was beautiful. She took me by hand and she took me to these two other tables. And she says, hey, everybody, I want to introduce you to Kat. And this was probably my second or third year there. And she said, now, I heard you guys all talking smack about her and her table. And I was shocked. I was not that they were talking smack, but that she brought it up. And she says, I'm going to challenge you guys right now to, rather than talk about her in a bad way, why don't you talk to her about giving you some extra ideas because your tables don't look that great? Why don't you invite her to go to Target? I know Kat. I've met Kat. She'll help you. She won't take over. She'll help you. The women stood there. Those women stood there. They all apologized and they looked at her and they said, you know what? You're right. Why do we do that? I mean, it was such a moment. Now, it could have gone in an entirely different direction, but it didn't. And it gave me this story. And this woman has always remained in my heart and in my mind, as I said to you. I said to the women, what is it that you want to achieve? What is your goal? What is your thought? What do you want to do? We started mapping it out. And I said, tell me your ideas. They did. Literally, we ran to Target, got a bunch of different things, came back. The tables looked fabulous. Then a couple other tables, other moms had come over and dads came over and they said, oh my gosh, you guys, these are looking amazing. Do you have any other ideas? I'm telling you, this was probably one of the best years we had. And when I stepped up and I did some other things for the school, I really wanted to embody this woman and that creativity and her ability to be that blunt in order to see the importance and to create change. So oftentimes that doesn't happen. What happens is the people are left to be negative, which then include more negativity, and here comes the tornado. In that situation, it did not. So, do you want to be the part of the tornado? Or do you want to be a part of the change that says this is not working? Let's not give power to the negativity, the bottom feeders, the emotional vampires. Let's spend more time with those diamonds in the rough who need support, who need feedback, who need skills. And let's also remove time from the bottom feeders and now complement, reinforce those diamonds. Because let me tell you, after a while, diamonds get tired of sitting back, watching the bottom feeders get all the attention, they get the criticism from the bottom feeders, and the people at the top give that attention. And here's the thing, a lot of times in the workplace culture and in the schools and in friend groups, they just want the tornado to go away. So who do you think they're going to ask to bend and modify and pull back? The diamonds. Why? Because the diamonds will do it. They'll achieve it. They'll figure it out and they'll do it. But what you don't realize is that it chips away and chips away at their feeling of value and importance. And eventually they leave. And then what are you left with? The bottom feeders, who will not do what they need to do. They'll continue with the tornado. So it just becomes this cycle. Break the cycle. If you are an executive, if you are a boss, if you are a principal, this is what you need to realize, is that if you give so much time and attention to those bottom feeders, and a lot of times they're the ones that actually donate also. Oh, it's such a hard thing because you want that donation, but it creates a cycle. Because inevitably, the people that go after the high achievers or go after the people that are actually doing the work, unfortunately, they're a reflection of everything that bottom feeder is not. So that becomes a threat to them. It becomes a threat. So what do? Fight or flight, right? If you think about the center of our brain that gives that fight or flight, that's what they do. And oftentimes they choose fight, which leads to the tornado. Now, as the executive, as the friend group, as the principal, as whatever it is, volunteer group, whatever it is, be aware of who are the people that are showing up with a smile, who have integrity, who want the best for the job, who want the best for their career. That's where your attention needs to go. Create programs where you're showing them positivity, acknowledgement. Here's another interesting fact. Do you know, and I say this in my practice all the time, it's very impactful, and I really want you to hear this. We are the only species on the planet who has an identifiable pattern of death. I'm going to say that again. We are the only species on the planet that has an identifiable pattern of death. Really? The only species? Yeah. Giraffes don't die on a Friday. We don't, and I'm not saying all humans die, okay, on this identifiable pattern, but we have a pattern. Like the other species, there is none. We don't see large groups of giraffes dying on a Friday or pandas dying on a Wednesday between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. But human beings, I'm going to give you a second. What day do you think that we have identified a pattern? I'm going to give you a second. For a human being. Monday. If you thought Monday, you are right. What time on a Monday? I'm going to give you a second. If you guess between 8 and 9 in the morning, you are right again. Why? It's linked to job dissatisfaction. Linked to job dissatisfaction. That's your identifiable pattern. Now, This job could be a lot of different things. Are you in the home? Are you in the workplace? Are you a volunteer? Where are you? But it's linked to job dissatisfaction. With technology, medical advancement, people don't die from heart attacks all the time, which is wonderful. And they don't die from certain things anymore. But you've got sometimes people that are young that wind up dying when they shouldn't have been dying. Why? A lot of times linked to job dissatisfaction. That's why it's vital for us to have a place that is good for us. So, if you are the person who's at the top, the executive, the owner of a business, the president of a company, the principal of a school, if you head off a volunteer organization, if you're running a group for moms or dads, support groups, you'll start identifying those people, the diamonds in the rough, and the bottom feeders. Talk about it, like my friend Kirsten. Talk about it, identify it. Pull those people aside. Give them the gift of acknowledging their tornado and setting a boundary that the tornado is not going to work here. So you have some options. If you're in a school setting, you need to work with people. We know who the bottom feeders are. We know who are the people who are negative. We know who are the people that create chaos. Don't go after your diamonds and the diamonds in the rough. Create a space for them to continue a beautiful environment for your school and for your organization. If you're in a volunteer, people come to volunteer. Create space for them to continue to come. So, think about this structure. Who are you in that structure? If you realize you were the person that's the tornado, the bottom feeder, and you didn't realize it until today, guess what? Start changing today. Realize what you're doing. Create the change. Seek help. Talk to somebody. Find out what's going on. If you're a diamond and you're exhausted by not getting value or good feedback, go talk to your employer. Just say, hey, I want to know if I'm doing a great job here. I would like to hear that feedback so that I can continue doing a good job here. If you're in a work environment that you don't like, see what's going on. See if you can create change. If not, the change may just be in you, and that may be changing a job. Because at the end of the day, we all say, oh, my family, my friends, that's my life, not work. But how many hours a day do we work? How much time do we talk to our partners and friends about things that happened at work? Are we making lunches for the next day or reservations for the next day for work? Are we figuring out what we're going to wear for work? Are we practicing things that we're going to say at work or schools or whatever else when somebody comes to us and attack us? You're probably spending the majority of your life tied up with work. Make a change. Make a change. When you come home from whatever environment you're in, whether positive or negative, leave it at the door. Try to create that change. Enjoy your life. I'm Dr. Kat. Have a wonderful day.